If I asked 20 comic skaters to define SJW, or woke, or how to spot an agenda, I'd get 20 different answers. Or I'd get one stock answer that's entirely subjective and copy-pasted nonsense.
Oh my god, what a stupid thing to say. Oh, if I ask 20 individuals the same question, I'll get 20 different answers, or the same answer 20 times. Like, what are the other options? That you get 18 different answers and the same one twice. Just roll the credits.
Woke doesn't seem to have any, real definition to it. It's just an easy way to dismiss people's political goals and political views, right? You hear this term a lot from, particularly people on the right. There's some on the far left who will use it.
That's me. Let's talk about me. So forced adversity does this thing all the time where he will just pretend that he doesn't know what a word means.
What does identity politics mean? Soy boy, PC, or PC culture, integrity. What does that mean?
It's the kind of shit that I would do when I was 6 years old. That someone would say something to me and I'd be like, oh, you even know what that means? Whatever they say, just pick out the most subjective or vague word and attack them there. I mean, sure, it's disingenuous as fuck, but it's actually an amazing trick. Because firstly, it redirects the conversation at hand away from the issue we're supposed to be discussing and brings us this new question about the definition of words, and it instantly switches the field. The other person now has to define the meaning of a word, and you're the one who gets to pick the holes in their definition. A tactic that tricked this Taylor dude into demonstrating perfectly to the fucking letter. It's a trap! I know that it's a trap, right? I mean, it's obvious as fuck, and I've watched people walk into it, but I don't care. I don't give a fuck. Let's fucking charge in there anyway. We're going to try and answer the question, what does woke mean?
We brought together 6 people who consider themselves woke.
I'm the wokest.
Because being woke is a competition.
I'm the wokest.
So this channel, Jubilee, they've gone and they've got 6 people who self-identify as woke, and I want to ask them what woke means, because we're better to get a definition from than someone who self-identifies. Somebody who is not the victim of how forced adversity described it.
It's an easy way to dismiss people's political goals and political views.
How do you define woke?
I think woke is being aware to the social systems that create social inequality amongst disenfranchised people.
Ding, 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 this guy is correct. Well, he is the closest that any of them are going to get to the dictionary definition. To be woke is to be alert to injustice in society, especially racism. That isn't too far away from being aware of the social systems that create social inequality amongst disenfranchised people, like the dude said. Well, injustice is subjective, right? Who decides what's just and what does disenfranchised people mean? See, it's that easy. All you have to do is be like, oh, do you even know what that word means? The term comes from the 1960s, from the civil rights movement, from the black community. That is before it was culturally appropriated by middle-class white people at university, so they could complain about their own perceived oppressions. Here's an obligatory Google Trends search term results for the word woke. Personally, I define woke as being red-pilled to inequality. But then that raises the question, what does red-pilled mean? Well, it's used to refer to a process by which a person's perspective is dramatically transformed, introducing them to a new and typically disturbing understanding of the true nature of a particular situation.
This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
The term comes from The Matrix, a movie made by 2 trans women. Does that make the movie woke? Put a pin in that. We'll be coming back to that question later in the video. But that's my definition of woke, to be red-pilled to inequality. And by that definition, I am woke. And probably you watching this are also woke. I know. Take it. But there's nothing inherently wrong with being woke by this definition. I think that applies to the vast majority of people in Western society. That's 3 definitions that we've had now. The dictionary, Christian, and the common mark definition of woke. And they're all pretty similar. They all pretty much express the same idea. It's what forced adversity would describe as
one stock answer that's entirely subjective and copy-pasted nonsense.
But let's ask another one. Let's ask another one of these self-identifying woke people what the definition of woke is.
I think being woke is being aware of yourself and how you perceive things or realities or events that happen.
Being woke is a really good thing, and there's so many different ways of feeling that good.
Being woke is about me. There are so many different ways to feel that good. I can't believe she said that. Thank you, Jaylee, for saying that out loud. Absolutely fuck all mention of oppression or injustice or inequality. Purely selfish. It's about me. It's about the different ways that I can make myself feel good. Jaylee isn't talking about what it means to be woke. What she's talking about is the good feelings that you get inside of your body from virtue signaling.
Virtue signaling is a term that's kind of flooded into the news the last year or two. A lot of people are very confused about what it is, why it means, why it matters, but it's basically showing off the traits and values that are considered morally good by others. And it's often showing them off in a way that gains you, as the signaler, as the displayer, some kind of social, sexual, or status benefit.
A virtue signal is just saying something online to get clout from whatever group it is that you're in. It's not always tied to being woke. Anything can be a virtue signal. Anytime that you say, I am good because I demonstrate this quality, that's a virtue signal. We know that virtue signaling is real because we've all seen it, we've all experienced it on Twitter. Like maybe you'll post some disability news or policy and someone pops into your replies to tell you how it affects disabled people and how you're wrong, and then when you point out that you're disabled and on disability, they vanish. Virtue signal accomplished. No need to engage with the disabled guy, because most of the time virtue signaling is hollow, it is meaningless, and it is empty. It's just a way to attack people and to gain your own social clout. Kind of like this video. Remember to leave a like.
For me, woke is basically anti-materialism. Going to like all the expensive stuff a lot of people have.
That is not woke. I agree that anti-materialism is good, but it has nothing to do with being alert to injustice. That's not woke. That's based. A word used when you agree with something or when you want to recognize someone for being themselves, i.e. courageous and unique, or not caring what other people think. To be based, you have to say something that you believe that's controversial and potentially dangerous for you to say. There has to be an element of bravery to standing up to speak a truth that makes people feel uncomfortable hearing, but is expressed in such a way that it ultimately makes them think he has a point here, despite how it may affect your social credit score. Irony being that these woke virtue signalers think that they are based by standing up next to the banks and the corporations and fucking McDonald's and Apple and all those other evil bastards. Like you're on their team, like you're agreeing with the status quo, like speaking out against perceived oppressions isn't like dangerous.
What about you?
Realizing that you're not the only person to exist and like your perspective isn't the only one, and just empathizing with things that like you never even thought of, like that were problems for people.
Realizing that your perspective is not the only one. It's not woke. It's not to do with inequality or injustice. It's not woke. But it is a sentiment that I agree with. It's part of being a good human being, like understanding that people have their own experiences, like, and they view things differently from the way that you do based on those experiences. I agree with this sentiment, and I wish that more of these woke people on Twitter and on YouTube would practice what the fuck they're preaching here.
I simply think that the fact that I don't agree doesn't make me prejudiced, doesn't make me a bigot, doesn't make me anything else. The bigotry is to think that I cannot have a different opinion. This is by definition bigotry.
No,
Bigot
it's
is
not.
It is. Yes, you can type bigot on Google, and that's the first usage.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that right now. I have Google right up here. Yeah, a person who is intolerant towards those holding different opinions. I'll happily be bigoted against the opinion that, like, against people who hold the opinion that non-binary people are
So
not
you're a bigot.
transgender. Yeah, sure.
Political correctness is America's newest form of intolerance, and it's especially pernicious because it comes disguised as tolerance. It presents itself as fairness, yet attempts to restrict and control people's language with strict codes and rigid rules.
You know, I've looked at the definition, but I can't help but feel that if someone first is aware of their own suffering or the turmoil and like the spiritual warfare that's going on inside them, then they're less quick to just cast judgment on someone else.
Judge not lest ye be judged. That's Jesus, bro. Again, another idea I think that we in the Western world universally agree upon in principle, at least. It's not woke, it's not based. The use of the phrase spiritual warfare is fucking cringe, though.
How I define it, it's about understanding the social injustices that happen, and someone who is woke is someone who is willing to like just listen.
Social injustice, pick another copy and paste subjective answer.
There's no singular definition about what being woke is.
What are you on about? You gave us the actual correct definition. I think that we completely demonstrated that if we asked 6 woke people to define the word woke, that we would get 6 different answers, or one copy and paste answer that was subjective nonsense. But there is one last thing that I want to demonstrate with this video. So at the end of each round they vote off who they think is the least woke. So we're going to have a look at this next. Intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender, and how they apply to given individuals or groups, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Basically, what that means is that oppression is stackable. The more different minority groups that you fit in, the more oppressed you are. And whether it's consciously or subconsciously, the woke people in this competition are going to vote along those lines all the way through. So take this first guy, Adriano.
Not at first appearance, but I am of Hispanic descent.
He's Latino, so that's +1. But he's white passing, so that's -1. He's back to 0 oppression points. Fuck off, Adriano. You're the first one out.
I'm sorry. He's the only, like, white passing one in the circle?
So you thought I was projecting that anyway, but she just admitted it.
Being a black person in America, yeah. But there's also white people who, you know, come in, like, shitty situations. For me, I'm not gonna lie, for me, like, growing up, like, I lived in a 2-story house, and there's this white dude who lived in a trailer home, had a bad, like, upbringing, like, so I was more privileged than him in that. It depends on the person by the end of the day, you know?
Again, based, I like this guy, I like the cut of his jib, he should come on the show, but he's only a black man, so he only gets +1 points for being black. Remember, black men were allowed to vote in America over 100 years before women were. So, sorry bro, fuck off, you're out. So Jaylee might be kind of white passing, but she's a woman, which counts as a +1, and she's Asian, which counts as another +1, but because she's Asian, Asian people are also technically white somehow now, so that's another -1, but you're still more oppressed than a black man as an Asian woman.
Y'all want to eliminate the love? That's fine.
We're not eliminating the
Y'all
love.
eliminating me?
We're not eliminating the love.
Y'all need love to do this policy stuff. Y'all know that, right? No. I was hurt when I was eliminated.
My feelings.
Come on, Dane, bro. These fake woke people must piss you off as well. Come on, be honest.
In order to achieve the most, I feel, for people is love.
I don't know about you watching, but I'm not like one of those spiritual woo-woo people who just, you know, operates my life based on like vague feelings of like, oh, this is just the moon's over Sagittarius or whatever, but that's what this sounds like to me.
So this is where the video gets to its most interesting and the most cringiest part. We're down to the last 3 contestants. And this white passing half Asian type dude has managed to get this far, but he knows that he cannot go up for the title against a black woman and a gay brown-skinned person. So he tries to do this.
So this might be against the rules of the game, but I believe, since this is like the woke episode, does anybody really have to wear a crown? Because being woke is not about
It's not about who's
winning, right?
No.
So how about
It's just hard that it's like that.
How about from this point on, I'll eliminate myself, but then we just end the game. How does that sound?
That's perfect.
No one wears the crown. Let's control the game. Let's not these conflicts and boundaries. Come on, you guys.
You know what? I honestly think out of everyone, I think you should get it because you have honestly.
Well, no, I'm not gonna put away the crown. But come on, say another hug, hey, dude.
Oh.
It was a pleasure.
Thank
dude.
you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God.
Group hug.
Did we just all wear the crown?
Okay.
Oh God.
So, if eliminated, please.
Okay.
And then they just carry on because the man told them to. Priceless.
I'm woke. I'm woke.
I mean, we're not talking about politics, we're talking about a film, right? Are we not? What does this mean? Does it mean that the film has a woman as a protagonist?
Okay, last one, bonus round, one more definition. Woke movie. What is a woke movie? Define woke movie. Very easy. It's a film genre concerned with the rousing feelings of wokeness.
You can't define things based on your own feelings, because those are your feelings, buddy. They're your feelings, right?
Actually, you can define things based on your own feelings. Like if you tried to define words like joy or happiness, I mean, I'm not surprised that you aren't able to define those words.
And, you know, for instance, Black Widow, right? Has a woman as the main character, several women as central characters. And it tells somewhat of a story that's really informed by women's perspectives and women's experiences, right?
Just because a movie has a female protagonist or a female director or a black director or a gay protagonist or whatever, that alone doesn't make it woke. The movie has to specifically address injustice and or inequality to count. So is The Black Widow movie woke? No. It's woke coded, like it's got a lot of men controlling women, Me Too like stuff underneath. It's quite well hidden under the explosions and the sweet asses. Is the Black Panther movie woke? Yes, definitely. Is the Matrix woke? No, I don't think so, because it's not about the injustice faced by minorities. It's about the way that the 1% control all of us. It's about class. It's not about race. As everybody knows, class is the real thing that divides us. Woke movies used to be a lot easier to spot because they launched them all in November and December in the lead up to Oscar season, the Oscar bait movies.
Everybody knows you never go full retard. You went full retard, man. Never go full retard.
There's nothing wrong with that. Like, if you as an artist have like a message that you want to say, do that. Like, put it into your work. I do not care. In fact, I encourage you to do that. Make like the art that speaks what you feel. But that's not what's happening here. This is a cynical ploy by major corporations to win brownie points. It's virtue signaling from these international powered motherfuckers who are manipulating you into thinking that they are good people. Oh, Disney must be a good company because they made some lesbians in Star Wars kiss each other. And it makes you forget that Disney are a bad company because they don't pay the royalties to the creators that they're supposed to. Oh, Apple must be a good company because their adverts have black people in them. And we just forget about the Chinese slave labor that make the phones. Like, it's all a distraction. It's all about sales. It's cynical. They want you to think that company is like me, take all my money. And it's definitely a real thing. Remember this clip from earlier.
Virtue signaling is a term that's kind of flooded into the news the last year or two. A lot of people are very confused about what it is, why it means, why it matters, but it's basically showing off the traits and values that are considered morally good by others. And it's often showing them off in a way that gains you as the signaler, as the displayer, some kind of social, sexual, or status benefit.
This guy is a professor of psychology and of marketing, and this whole lecture is a way for him to sell to you the idea that his company will be able to improve the image and branding of your company through woke advertising.
I'll talk today about virtue signaling and how it relates to marketing and branding.
Like, it's a real eye-opener. Go and watch the whole thing. If you sincerely believe that your virtue signaling is helping to improve society, good for you. But most of the time, especially when it comes from these white-owned, super mega international corporations, it's fake, it's bullshit, and it's just to sell you more stuff. It's a grift. It's all fake. And how do we know that it's fake? Because
white people are all racist.
That's the end. I hope you learned something. Okay.